Good evening. Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Presenting travel writer and sacred mysterious site hunter, Teal Gray.
Good evening and welcome to Para Mysteries. I'm your host, Teal Gray. We are coming to you live on WBHM-DB radio out of Birmingham, Alabama. Tonight, you are going to love the show. We have as a special guest, Larry Snider, and he has so many things that he does. He's been a teacher. He is like this Renaissance man. He can take furniture and recreate it to look, like something out of the 18th century. He's, worked with boats and owned a boat company. He has built a replica of Robbie the Robot. So many things. Let me bring you on, Larry, and I want you can give a description better than anybody of what makes you tick. So welcome to the show, Larry Snider.
Well, hello, Teal. Oh, it's been so long since when did we last talk? I don't even remember.
Oh my gosh, it's been a bit. It's been a minute, as they say.
I almost don't remember what people look like. We've been in the house since March.
Well, though, with you, being on lockdown just makes you even more creative. It seems like I find, you've done, these beautiful, wall murals, or you've created a new monster in your lab. You just always surprise me with what's going on. So
lucky for me, I like to keep busy, but
you're good at it.
It's either do something or go crazy. So I got a choice. I got two things I can do.
Well, as a child, even though, I wonder if your father took you to some amazing places. I mean, even as a boy, there's pictures I've seen of you, riding camels in front of the pyramids. Do you think that sort of having this lucky childhood travels and different things where your mind saw so much of the world, do you think that influences how you are as you move about your life? And you're just a true Renaissance man.
Sure, I imagine everybody's early experiences, of course, they all add up to the sum total of you. But yeah, I was lucky. My dad was an airline mechanic. And he worked for different airlines, and he worked on the engines and the tires and checking them out before they flew and so forth. But the great benefit to that was we didn't have to pay for airline tickets. He could get essentially free tickets. We would pay $5 or $10 for a ticket to Europe. You just
Wow.
paid the airport tax. So, he got a couple weeks vacation every year, and we would, travel the world. And you're right. I was so lucky. We got to go to the Middle East. We got to go to Africa. We got to go to Europe. We got to go to the Caribbean, where basically we did do an awful lot of traveling, when I was little. And I'm sure, being exposed to especially history. I really loved, my mother would schlep us through every museum and shoe store, by the way, wherever we were. So we'd go through the museums, and besides looking at the pictures of the naked ladies, I actually picked up a lot in those museums. I really, for me, I love the museums that would talk about early attempts at, man's quest for knowledge or exploration. I love naval museums where there were boats and submarines and cannons and all that other wonderful stuff. I love that. The art museums, I'm sure, affected me too, because I do have a love for art. So yeah, sure, absolutely. Early experience certainly molds everybody's lives. And I to this day, I love to travel.
Yeah, you do.
Matter of fact, I am so stir crazy staying in the house for, oh my gosh, for months and months and months. We
you
actually
just did an around the world cruise.
Yeah, well, and not the last one, but I just signed up for another one. So we're as soon as we get out of this house, we're getting out of this house. Yeah, but I had to actually cancel 2 or 3 trips this year that we were supposed to. We were going to go. We went from east to west last time. We were going to go from west to east. This, we were, and there's still the world's a pretty big place, So there's a lot to see. Even you go around it, you can't see it all in one go. You got to go around it again and again. So yeah, absolutely.
You're ready to go.
Oh yeah, we are.
Well,
we're definitely ready.
You're so artistic, but also mechanically inclined. And I mean, you built a robot, which is amazing. If anybody, hasn't seen it, the Robbie the Robot videos you have on YouTube, and it's really fascinating because you take people through the whole process, and even you going to museums to give talks about it, and so that is really wonderful what you can do. Is that something also? I mean, is that something you came to?
Well, yeah, sure.
In your life that, or were you always curious and kind of mechanically tinkering around as well as artistic?
Well, luckily for me, we had like 4 boys in my family, and my dad was just a mechanic, so we were basically poor. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted something, you could either you could find it in somebody's trash and fix it, or you could make it yourself, right? Yeah. And my dad was a mechanic, so he had a shop, with tools in it and so forth, which we would, as kids do, dutifully spread them all over the neighborhood as we as we explored things we weren't allowed to explore. I had and of course I grew up in the days where in the morning you got kicked out of the house, and and they would call you in for dinner, and you better come in quick. So yeah. We were basically free roaming wild children, all day. And you could run around on our homemade bicycles. We could run around the neighborhood or wherever as far as we could roam, and get into as much trouble as possible, come home, and and it was the way I was brought up. It was lucky for me because I learned to do a lot of things. Things
that can't be done now, for sure. Yeah. Not just in the pandemic, but the world has definitely changed as far as security level of your children and everything. It's just tough.
Even in school, when I was a kid, we had shop class. Okay, mm-hmm. So but that's not so much anymore. They basically. They've thrown away and disassembled the shop classes, and I think it's to the detriment. Let's say at least you get exposed to mechanical aptitude. Mm-hmm. If something breaks, you could fix it. You can do a little plumbing repair, a little electrical repair, a little bit of, mechanical repair. Yeah, you could do something.
Of it, sure.
Exactly. And electronics too. I mean, they're not really teaching those kind of things. The vocational arts, I'll call them. The way that we had it when I grew up. Of course, I was in school, in the 60s.
Right.
Yeah. So it was the heyday. I'll tell you the truth. I've had to relearn a lot of things as the technology's changed, mm-hmm. Going from kind of manually operated machines to computer operated machines. But the basics were there. You're right. I did make a robot recently, and I had to learn computer-aided drafting because you have to have computer files to drive your 3D printer. So mm-hmm. I never, of course, had computer-aided drafting in school, but I did learn mechanical drawing, which was pencils and triangles and compasses and so forth. So I had the basics, and you just learn to adapt it to the newer technologies and upgrade it. It was easy for me because of a good start.
Having
I
that basis. I agree with you. I think in so many things people want to skip over the basics and go right for, the meat of a subject even, or anything they're learning. And I can never stress to people enough, no matter what it is, learn the basics, the ground up, because you're going to learn things that you will use. You don't think so, but you're not going to understand if you jump, to the head of the class on some of that stuff.
I can't agree more. And I was so lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in New York. We had great schools. I had great shop classes, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, speaking about the computer age that we're in now, that's one thing I want to talk to you about. While they have taken out some of the things that are, life skills, they definitely have built in better programming and more of the computer learning for schools. And that's, I think great. I think it's wonderful. I think we should have a little more rounded kind of a learning. But with this computer age and everybody thinking futuristically, there's an opinion that you can upload your consciousness to a computer because we are in fact a machine in a human form. So for some, it's immortality, and others, it's just a possible tool for maybe preservation of our species should things go completely south. So humans uploading their consciousness to a computer, underlying this concept of mind uploading, which more accurately mind transference would really probably be more to the point. It's the broad philosophy that consciousness lies within the brain's information processing, and in its essence, an emergent feature that arises from this large neural network and high level patterns of organization. And the same patterns of organization can be realized in other processing devices, i.e. computers. So some futurists predict that humans will be able to upload their consciousness to computers in the near future, or the future. We'll just leave it at that. So what are your thoughts on this sort of, it's not a movement, but it's definitely getting more and more press these days. What do you think about that?
It's like, so the way I think about it, it's like, how does science fiction influence science fact? So when we were little in the 60s, we had Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Now, Star Trek had a lot of things that we're just beginning to see now. That's science fiction. Ray Bradbury thought up the communicator. It's mm-hmm. a little flip phone. Well, what happened? Along comes a flip phone, and he also thought up like the tricorder, which does analysis and so forth. And our phones are doing a lot of that stuff right now. You could wear a watch and it'll check your heartbeat, and it'll check your blood pressure, and it'll check your temperature, and it'll check your respiration. It'll check your blood oxygen level. Yes. Oh my God.
And even tell you how well you sleep. Did you sleep in the 70 percentile?
Exactly. It tracks your sleep cycle, right? It does all that stuff. So some science fiction does become science fact. And I think it actually inspires. The scientists of today, they grew up aspiring to some of these, nascent technologies, or not even nascent technologies, things that didn't exist, but we imagined that these things should be possible. So mm-hmm. they took that wonderful spirit of, hey, it should be possible to do this if only I could learn how to do it. And of course, the human spirit, and that takes over. And the next thing you know, we're enjoying the benefits of these wonderful new technologies. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
it's a possible future.
I'm one of those kids. People ask me what I do now, and I'm kind of retired, but I'm like a mad scientist. I love to learn new stuff. I embrace the future. I'm not one of those people that are so resistant to change. So right. I'm what you might call an early adopter of some new technologies. I probably had a computer in the early 80s. Okay. That probably 5 or 10 years before most people had computers, I had a computer. And then an electric car. We had our first electric car around 2000. Well, that's, 10 or 11 years before that. So I'm an early adopter for new technologies, and I I fully embrace. And let me just say, I would love to be able to. There's a lot of stuff for me to do in this world. But I'm in my 60s, and I'm thinking, when you're 10 or 12, it takes forever to get to 20. But to get from 20 to 40, what happened? It was like overnight. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And then 40 to 60, and you go, oh my gosh, did I miss something? It's all gone.
What happened to the 50s?
Yeah, it's all gone.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
I've
true.
got a lot more to do, a lot more to experience.
So you may be thinking about looking
I've got a lot more to share and grow and contribute to the world. Yes, yeah. I would just love to be. What you're talking about is transhumanism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, transhumanism, it's a continuum. It's not just okay, human beings one day are human beings and they have a finite lifespan, and the next day they're immortal. That's not the way it works. So transhumanism is a series of stages whereby technology advances, and we utilize this technology to our benefit to extend life. There's a lot of research going on right now about life extension.
I want all of it.
Oh yeah, from healthy diets to gene manipulation to make your cells essentially live longer. Or even maybe not have a lifespan. Right now, cells, they last 80 years or so, and then they start to break down, and you got troubles. But not all organisms are like that. We can study things in nature that don't. There's this little animals called tardigrades. These are little microscopic nothings, but they're tough as nails, and they can survive in extreme environments, and they live a long time. We don't even know if they die. If something doesn't kill them, they may never die. So we can
need to be that.
Well, all life on Earth comes from a common origin. We know this because the recipes for these life forms on Earth are all based on DNA, and we see that there's instructions for building different organisms, and we can learn from some that have beneficial traits that we'd like.
Sure.
We don't know much about very important parts of humans. We're just beginning. We're taking baby steps, studying the central nervous system. We don't know a lot, but we have the desire. Mm-hmm. We're thinking, okay, maybe we can, stop a lot of these terrible, debilitating diseases, at least make life more pleasant for us into our declining years, or maybe extend our productive years, So we have goals, aspirations. Science is working on this. Thousands of scientists all around the world are working on various aspects of improving the human condition. This is all part of transhumanism. Yes, at some point or another, what does it mean to be me? Be able to be either replicated in a non-biological system or transferred to a non-biological system. But that is very futuristic thinking at this point.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that big jumps can take place in short periods of time. Mm-hmm. We just had a really big one that affects transhumanism, and that's the CRISPR gene editing technology. We are beginning to understand genes. We've mapped the human genome. We've mapped the genomes of many organisms now. So we can start to find out about the blueprints of life for different things. But affecting changes in those sequences has been very difficult because these things are so tiny. You've got to make a change, you've got to chop a gene, throw a piece away, and put in a new piece in a very specific location to change an organism. And we couldn't, at the scales that are necessary, we couldn't accurately do that. But now the CRISPR technology allows us to go in and with any sequence that we know about in the DNA of an individual or an organism, we can chop it there, throw away a little piece, and add a different piece in. Wow, what a big step. And in a very short time. CRISPR technology is like 5 years old, and already we're manipulating the genomes of organisms to make changes. Oh, terrific.
It's exciting stuff. Now I'm gonna have to stop you there for a minute, Larry. We're gonna take a break and hear from our sponsors, but we will be right back, everyone, with Larry Snider. And after that, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about space. So we'll be back in just a minute, everyone.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back to Paramysteries. This is your host, Teal Gray. We're coming to you live from Birmingham, Alabama on WBHM-DB Radio. We are speaking tonight with Larry Snider. We've been talking about transhumanism, and I want to let you, Larry, have a minute to finish your thoughts on that, and then I want to talk a little bit about space. So go ahead and finish your thoughts. You were right in the middle of when we had to break.
I forgot where we're at. But anyway, so transhumanism, it sounds, this is the technology that does not exist, or it's at least just in its infancy right now. But I see great promise. Now, some people will think, oh, gosh, you want to live forever? I mean, that's very selfish. Or what about, I mean, the planet's got enough people on it already. What are we going to do all these extra people if nobody's dying and so forth? And you're right. These are all
Soylent Green. We're going to go to
well, it's valid concerns. I mean, the planet has a certain holding capacity. It can support so many life forms, and that's it. And it's supporting us right now. But What if there was all these extra people and nobody died and so forth? But I have to say that there's a very important aspect of transhumanism for the survival of the species. It may not even just be for transhumanism, but trans anythingism. You could think this way. But tomorrow, an asteroid could strike our planet and wipe out all life on the planet. That would be the end of the human species. Now, we don't know how many intelligent species are in the universe, but we know there's at least one. At least we think we're intelligent. Right. And it would be nice, gosh, if there was some sort of a safeguard against catastrophe. And there's any number of ways catastrophe could strike. We could blow ourselves up. We could let loose a bunch of nuclear weapons. Some moron somewhere could push a button, and somebody else pushes another button, and before you know it, we could have a catastrophe that way. We could have a biological plague that wipes out.
Like now.
yeah. So you see, these things are possible, okay? Yeah. And they're easier to occur than you think, okay? A super volcano, the Yellowstone Park is a super volcano. It's been dormant for 600,000 or 700,000 years, but it's kind of due to blow. Well, that thing could go off, and it would really devastate life on our planet. So there's an altruistic motive for transhumanism, and that is, well, we might want to hedge our bets and spread humanity across the universe. Right now we have an 80-year lifespan. Maybe you could stretch it to 100 or a little more, but that's about it. Well, the closest celestial object to us is 4 light years away, and just getting there would take hundreds of thousands of years. Lots and lots of lifetimes. It's not within our technological capability to spread man across the universe right now. But through transhumanism, let's say we could exist non-biologically. We could exist as a digital self. Well, time is not so important anymore. Right. All you have to do is you just send information across the galaxy. It travels at the speed of light. You could send your program, the essence of you, somewhere else. Or if you could extend life for a long, long time, you could hop in some kind of a craft and off you go. Or how about let's change humanity from the beings that we are now into things that are the size of microorganisms, but with complete everything. Right. Shrink ourselves. Well, the amount of resources required to travel long distances vastly shrink. So through our technology, we may be able to extend man's reach beyond our solar system, or even just through our solar system to another habitable planet. Right. Yeah. Right now.
And we're finding out so much, more and more all the time. It's something that, oh, wow, we never thought this was possible. We had no idea this was there. And, in fact, since we're out in space, I want to talk a little bit about that because, NASA has launched Orion, its first new spacecraft to carry astronauts since the shuttle. China developing its next space station. Private companies are changing that the economic space by forging ahead with plans for human space flight and space tourism and even missions to Mars. So, as we look at this glorious new space age of moon bases and Mars colonies and cosmic discoveries, I agree with you. There's really no limit and no way to think that we wouldn't just keep moving forward. But as we do that, and perhaps we take our consciousness or we make a little bit of the science fiction come to life where you have the sleep pods that, you go to sleep and then off you go to wherever to wake up safely once there. But while you're maneuvering through all this space, what do you think possibly could be out there? I would be remiss if I didn't ask you where you stand on aliens, alien life forms. What do you think about that?
Well, if you do the math, the numbers suggest that there must be other life in the universe. Okay, it's statistically extremely probable that there's other life. But how close is that other life to us? Believe it or not, extremely improbable that anything. Yeah, space is so vast that the probability of us encountering another intelligent life form infinitesimally small. But other life forms, there may even be in our solar system other life forms. There's moons of the gas giants that may have oceans around solid cores, and that may harbor life. As far as we know, we're checking that, but we're getting tantalizing glimpses, even in Venus's atmosphere. Now, Venus is an inhospitable planet, but we've just detected some signs of life in Venus's atmosphere. So there may be life forms that are living in Venus's atmosphere in some part that is habitable by something. It may be that wherever life can survive, it does.
Life finds a way.
Exactly. So we don't know that life is very rare. Statistically speaking, it should be quite common. Whether or not it's intelligent or not, that's going to be, to be seen. But
well, we have to ask ourselves that question now.
Well, anyway, so if you ask my opinion, are there alien life forms? Of course. Statistically improbable that there wouldn't be, but have they ever visited Earth? Are they hiding as reptile people or whatever that is? Despite what some politicians might lead you to believe, I don't think that they are reptiles in disguise. I think that everybody on the planet is a human. It would be anyone who traveled the distances required to get to another solar system. Certainly wouldn't be hiding in the shadows, that kind of thing. I mean, it would be immediately evident. And by the way, biological beings traveling between the stars, very improbable. If we were visited by aliens, I would expect them to be machines or software. I certainly wouldn't expect physical beings to do the traveling. It's just improbable. Although there's technologies that we haven't discovered yet that I don't know. So, I mean, it's entirely plausible that there are civilizations that can do that, but it's doubtful. Like, physics is physics. Sending biological beings between the stars is just, it's a real stretch.
It's improbable.
Well, so there's some thinking about warp drives and so forth that would make that possible. But
wormholes.
But to tell you the truth, putting biology through those things. Talk about a stretch. It's called spaghettification.
You literally do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It puts a big stress. It puts a big stress on biological beings of any size. So I would say it's improbable, and I don't think aliens have visited our planet. Although there's a diaspora theory that the building blocks of life may have come from outer space, and that's a possibility. But it's not that living beings traveled from a distant star to us. It's just building blocks of biology may have traveled to stars and been dormant for millennia and started the seeds of life on various worlds. That's possible. In that way, you could say aliens may have visited, but it's not the kind of aliens with big gray bodies and big eyes and big heads kind of thing.
Well, so from aliens to robots, I want to talk a little bit. We have a few minutes here still. I want to talk to you about your Robbie the robot that you created. What made you think, you know what, I think I'm going to go in the mad science lab and just whip out a Robbie the robot?
Yeah. Well, so everybody from childhood is something that they were keen on. I really love science fiction. Robbie the robot was the star of Forbidden Planet. It's a movie that came out in 1956, and he was the first good science fiction robot. We'd had science fiction robots before that were basically oil cans with guys in them with leotards on their arms and legs, kind of thing.
Right.
They were pretty stupid looking robots, but boy, Robbie the Robot came along in Forbidden Planet, and he was a real robot. He was the coolest thing. The person who designed him designed the robot in Lost in Space too. That
Right.
that aluminum kind of canny guy with the
That was my friend.
yeah, a bubble head. Yeah, that was robot B9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the same guy designed both of them, and he had previously designed washing machines in Japan. And if you look at the center section of both of those robots, they're washing machine drums.
Right.
So,
yeah. I hadn't thought about that. Absolutely. That's exactly right.
yeah, when Robbie came around, of course, Robbie looks like he's made out of metal or whatnot, but honestly, he was an emergent technology had just been developed called vacuum forming. And now we see vacuum forming all over the place. Any kind of blister package that you open up, you know, those things that are hard as hell to get into, and you have to cut them open and curse a lot.
Yes.
Well, that's all vacuum forming. But it was a nascent technology in the 50s, and they had some plastic they called Royalite. That was the stuff that made the American Tourister luggage. You know, that stuff. They gave it to a gorilla to bounce around the cage, or they dropped it out of an airplane and it would survive. So he was made out of that stuff, and vacuum forming. And lucky me, when I was in school, we had a vacuum forming machine, and I learned vacuum forming.
Really?
And, yeah, sure. So I grew up in the 60s, and the plastics was a big thing.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, the message from the graduate, the one word was what? Plastics.
Plastics. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was a boyhood kind of. Oh, I want that robot, and So Robbie, I mentioned he was the first really good science fiction robot. He was built in '56 for $125,000. Now, in today's money, for a film, that would be over $1 million for making a prop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a significant portion of the budget of the film, and he was really the star of the show. If you watch Forbidden Planet, people ask, well, who was starring in it? Well, the star was Robbie the Robot.
Right.
You may not remember the people that were in it, but you remember Robbie.
You're going to remember that robot for sure.
That's right. So I decided to make him, and I could have made him two different ways. The conventional way, the way they did him in Forbidden Planet, which was vacuum forming. But vacuum forming requires that you make a wooden mold of every piece that you're going to vacuum form. And Robbie has quite a few different pieces, so I'd have all these wooden molds, and they're big, they're life size. Mm-hmm. And then what do you do with them after you make your robot? You got to throw them away, or store them.
You make a robot army, Larry.
I got so much stuff stored. I got a lifetime of stuff stored. So the other way to do it would be to 3D print him. And and I thought to myself, I always wanted to learn 3D printing, and this will give me a chance to do that. So I love learning. There's a lot of things I love, so I just explore them all, whatever. And I shopped and shopped and shopped, and I didn't buy a 3D printer right away. I waited a couple of years. Matter of fact, I hemmed and hawed, but they kept getting better, and they kept getting cheaper. And finally, I said, okay, I'm getting one. So I got a 3D printer, and I was able to print most of Robbie with the 3D printer. I had to learn CAD because 3D printers require software to print whatever they're going to print. And that was a good experience, too. It was nice that I finally learned CAD. That was nice. And then the one thing I did have to actually kind of vacuum form, I thermoformed it, but same idea, was the clear dome on the top. And we managed that in our, we have a little conservatory room that I have a potter's wheel in there. I made the mold for his head, and then I made a cardboard box into an oven, and Tui helped me out. We had a great time thermoforming the dome on Robbie, but it worked all fine. And
I love it. And I had a
blast making that robot.
Of the people when you would go out into the crowd when you were at the museum and came out as Robbie the robot, the faces of the people, they just can't even comprehend what they're seeing. It's so fun.
But again, they have to be of an age, because kids nowadays, they don't know Robbie from anybody. But, in my generation, he was the robot to have.
I think
by the way, I got some trivia about Robbie. he's the most expensive movie prop ever sold.
Wow.
Yeah, he
That's
just
something.
went at auction his original suit for like $3 point something million. He's just amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, even like the ruby slippers and all that stuff from Wizard, they didn't go that high. But Robbie was, yeah, he's the most desired movie prop there is.
Gosh.
So
Well, now for people who haven't seen the videos and they're interested and they want to know more about that, where can they find that?
okay, so Tui, my wonderfully multi-talented wife. Let me tell you, I have to do a lot of reading and catch-up work just to keep up with her. But she is such a talent. She's been putting together videos of my projects, her projects, things about her books. She's made a lot of YouTube videos, and she helped me out, and we made a couple. I don't know how many were up there, 2 or 3 Robbie the Robot videos, plus some of all my other projects. She's been videotaping and narrating and doing. Oh, it's terrific. Anyway, it's on YouTube. You just go on there and look up Tui Snider, and you'll see a listing of her videos. I think she's got like 50 videos or more.
Great. And then they
Yeah.
can go down. They'll find you.
Yeah,
and
they can
Rob.
find Robbie, and if anybody wants to make a Robbie, they can ask questions or whatever on there, and I look at it every once in a while and respond to questions. So, sure.
That's great. Good. Well, I mean, do you have anything else? We've got just a couple of minutes with you left. Anything that we should be, if we hear noises from the mad scientist lab on the horizon you're working on now?
Teal, I am always working on projects. I've got a couple of projects going right now. I'm making a big pizza oven outdoors. I think we're going to get a video on that soon. And I'm doing more artwork inside. I'm doing some other things. I got to do some floor tiling project, and I want to do another bas relief above our fireplace. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff. And again, I mentioned we're going to travel around the world again. So Tui will make videos on all this stuff. And I'd love to come back on your show. Gosh, if you're curious about anything, just call me and we'll do this again.
Absolutely. It's just been such a fun show. It goes so quickly because I could ask you 1,000 questions. I mean, it's just wonderful because you're such a great resource and you have so much knowledge and so many different aspects. It's wonderful. So thank you so much for your time, because I do know you're busy. Even though
it's important to stay busy.
Home,
honestly.
you are, yeah.
Yeah, stay busy. Keep yourself going with projects, and keep yourself interested so you don't have to go out and get yourself endangered until we can get over this stupid pandemic.
That's right.
So stay safe. Work on things in your house. Polish up all those home projects that you've been putting off forever. So
I mean, really, we may come out of this and everybody's place has added value from everything that they fixed while on the pandemic.
Well, there you go. That's right. Make it productive and learn something. You know what I did? I made mozzarella cheese last week.
Oh, see, there's always something new. There's always something. We might see some Chef Larry videos in the future. I don't know. But we're going to have to go to break. But I want to thank you again, Larry. It really has been a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have you back soon. When we come back from our break, everybody, we are going to be talking to Tui Snider, and she's going to have a special segment for it. So we will be back in just a few minutes. And again, Larry, thank you so much, and have a blessed night. Everyone,
I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on, Teal.
Absolutely. We'll be right back, everybody.
Bye now.
Welcome back to Paramysteries on WBHM-DB Radio. We are live with you coming out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're back with our special segment, which we have Tui Snider with us tonight on Paramysteries. And Tui, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We always love to have your special segments. I know tonight you're going to be telling us some really interesting things about Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, there's a lot. I understand he was exhumed, and the cemetery, they didn't even bury him in Dallas. And I'm just curious. There's so many things about him that are a mystery to me. So what do you have on this guy?
Yeah, well, first, I just wanted to say thanks for having my husband Larry on, because I love to be able to share him with other people. He's just so much fun, and I just knew the time would fly by.
It did.
And now, I sometimes tell people that when I'm feeling lazy and, I don't bother asking Siri or Google, I just Google Larry because I can't get the answers.
So he's going to have the answer for you.
Yes, he does. So anyway, yeah, and he is also so good-natured. He goes to every single historic cemetery. He's my personal chauffeur and my companion, because sometimes, as you well know, some of these hidden cemeteries, historic cemeteries I go to, they can be in kind of a seedy neighborhood, a little bit creepy areas, and just in general.
You have to always be careful with that, and
yes,
it's nice to know. And one thing, you do go to so many cemeteries, and you have written so many books that I just want to give a shout out about a very special milestone you just hit with your book sales. Congratulations, over 10,000 books sold. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I found out, because usually I don't do a book tally until January, when Larry, who among his other talents, he does our taxes every year. I'm so lucky. That's so great. I love that. But, he always asks me, okay, how many books and, yada, and I have to, what were your expenses? But I came up at breakfast, and I don't even know what triggered it. And I just thought, I'll just go tally them up now. And much to my surprise, I had sold over 10,000 books. I kept checking it. And I thought, oh my gosh. So to celebrate, I could not believe it. I was so excited. And so I thought, what can I do? We're can't have everybody over for a great big pizza party or anything. So I thought, you know what, I will have a giveaway. And so if what I'm doing is I've got a giveaway set up on my website. If you go to tuisnider.com and click on where it says articles, the first thing you'll see is my 10K giveaway. And just leave me a comment there. Tell me which prize you want. So for the prizes, I'm doing stuff like I made a historic cemetery calendar from some of the calendars around the world that Puerto Rico, South America, England, places I've been with unique, Barcelona, gorgeous cemetery statuary. I have another calendar that's angels, historic cemetery angels, which is one of my favorites, little chubby cherubs, and even Father Time. I got a really great Father Time twiddling his beard. I got some great photos there. I have mugs. I have other things. So just go there. I thought this is what's fun for me.
Too.
I have some necklaces. So just, having some fun stuff. So there, I thought, well, that's one way I could kind of party with people and go like, whoop, whoop,
Oh, it's a great way. And it's a huge accomplishment. So you should be super, super excited, proud about that. I'm really thrilled for you.
I'm very excited. All right. Well, I really should answer your original question. I'm making you work for it, Teal.
That's all right. Hey, you got to keep me in line.
Yes, I did recently. My most recent YouTube video is called Lee Harvey Oswald's Grave, and it covers the bizarre events, controversy, and forgotten history surrounding this grave site. I figured since next the 22nd is the anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination, I thought this is a good time to cover
birthday. This. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like my dad's birthday is 9/11, And
Oh,
so
right.
I always say he had it first, you know.
That's right.
I'm always, yeah. but yeah. But when it gets to Oswald, there is so much strangeness surrounding his grave. For starters, nobody wanted his body. I mean, you can imagine it's like that assassination. I know that Oswald, you know, if you're going to be persnickety, I know he never stood trial because he got assassinated. He got shot shortly after. But what happened and the way the entire country felt, nobody wanted his body in their funeral home or even in their cemetery. So Dallas was like, you know, get him out of here. And his mom had a plot in Shannon Rose Hill Cemetery in Fort Worth. And there's a law that says if your family has a cemetery plot, they can't already owns it before you die. Doesn't matter how notorious you are, they can't deny your burial there. So that is why he ended up in Fort Worth.
Because
much to the chagrin. No, they did not want him. They were like, this is they say there's no such thing as bad publicity. Forget it. They were like, this is bad publicity. We do not want this guy. But as it was, they ended up having to bury him there. Now, when they transported his body from Dallas to Fort Worth as secretively as they could, and yet, you know, word slipped out. Some reporters kind of got tipped off. And so what they did was they used a fake name, and even the people who were digging his grave didn't realize they were digging it for Oswald. I never did find out what the fake name was. I was trying to figure that out. But they are burying, you know, digging a grave thinking it's for John Smith or whatever. And suddenly the only people who show up were Oswald's mom, his brother, his widow, Oswald's kids. But there were a few reporters there because they had been kind of tipped off. Well, they ended up with a problem because no one wanted to be the pallbearer. I mean, it was like, we don't want to have anything to do. So nobody wanted to. So finally, I don't remember which reporter it was, but one of the reporters said, okay, I will carry his casket. Well, obviously not, you know, you need more than one person. As soon as he volunteered, this kind of cracked me up. All the other reporters said, well, okay,
sure.
I will too.
They don't want them to hear the scoop, you know.
I know. They are so competitive. I just cracked up. I was like, yes, that was the psychology that worked. Now, the minister who gave his eulogy has been quoted as saying he only had maybe 20 seconds to prepare his eulogy because, you know, they wanted him to be buried the same day as John F. Kennedy. They wanted it to kind of, because they figured the nation would be paying attention to that. That was smart. And they just did not want, you know, they were trying to be as secretive as they could. And so they asked a couple ministers first, hey, would you deliver, you know, Oswald's, we're going to bury him. Would you deliver his eulogy? And several of them just said no. And the reason they said no was, you know, number one, we don't want to, which isn't very Christian, right? But also, I mean, they also were afraid, and I can understand this, they were afraid there would be some retaliation towards them. Like if maybe their violence. Yeah, people will think that they, I don't know, are, you know, giving him some sort of favors. Well, finally, Lewis Saunders said he would do it. I mean, he didn't have much time to think about it. He said, sure, I'll do it. And he gave I thought it was very good, the eulogy he gave. It just said, you know, he didn't mention anything about any of the crimes that he may or, you know, he committed.
Sure.
He just said, or anything about his character in that regard. He said, you know, here we have the body of someone whose mother says was a very good son. His wife says was a loving husband. His brother, you know, says was a loving sibling. You know, who are we to judge? And then he quotes the Bible. I mean, it was just I thought it was classy.
That's right. That's the right way to do it.
I really was touched, actually. I thought, you know, that was the thing to do. That was right.
Yeah.
But one thing, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but there's so many, it kind of gets weird.
We have
a little
minutes. We have time.
We got a few minutes. All right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I thought was interesting, I didn't realize his original headstone was stolen.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So his original headstone, about 3 years after his death, on the night of his, you know, it was the anniversary of his death, it just disappeared. And there was a really strange note left behind. And the cops actually tracked it down. They recovered the headstone maybe a week later. up in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, of all places.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were able to determine that a group of teenagers had just done it kind of on a thrill. And then they'd gotten it, and then they kind of realized they were in over their head because of what have we done. And so the cops brokered a deal with them. Look, we won't reveal who you kids are if you just give us back the headstone, and we'll just, learn from this. And so they did. They returned the headstone to Oswald's mom. But instead of putting the headstone back at Oswald's grave, his mom hid it under her front porch in the crawl space. And she didn't tell anybody it was there. And so she put a different headstone there, which is the one we now see. It's just a plain pink granite marker, and all it says is Oswald on it. And even then, she was still under a lot of pressure I should mention this, that, even though Shannon Rosehill had to accept the body, there was a lot of pressure on her right after his death to move the body somewhere secret. And she just flat out refused. In fact, she wanted Oswald to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery, the same cemetery in Virginia where JFK is, because she said he's not guilty. And he served in the military, and he had an honorable discharge. He should go there. That's where all the heroes go, she said. And they were like, yeah, lady, I don't think you quite get it. That's never going to happen. Not going to happen, lady. Come on. So they were like saying there was a lot of pressure from her to move his body from Fort Worth to somewhere else. And she said she wouldn't do it. Because it's like, he's there. I'm keeping him there. So also, one reason they wanted him to move his body was it cost the city of Fort Worth back in the 1960s $3,000 a month to have cops there. They had 2 cops there 24/7 standing guard over his grave for quite a while, until it took a long time for this to die down. So the city was like, great, we got to pay this money. And,
Now that's resources they wanted to use somewhere else for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, she replaces that stolen headstone, and she keeps that one, and time goes by, and she dies. And the people who buy her house have no idea that there's a headstone under their front porch until they have to have some electrical work done. And the electrician comes up and he's like, you guys, did you know there's like a headstone under your porch? And they're like, what? And so in the video, I go into the details of how this headstone, the travels of Oswald's headstone. Oswald's headstone is very well traveled.
It's well traveled.
It ended up in Illinois for a while, in Chicago, in a museum up there, in a car museum. And then somebody sued them to get it back and down to Texas, and they finally settled out of court. So I lost track of the headstone. Last I heard, a man was trying to sell it so that he could donate it to the 6th floor museum in Dallas, which seems like the right place for it at this point, but it's kind of a crazy tale. Yeah, there's a lot of strangeness. I don't know how we're doing on time. I'm going on and on.
But you've got that, like you said, it's all in your video. And before we do run out of time, we just have a minute or two. I want everybody to know, again, remind them, congratulations, and remind them about your 10,000 and growing milestone of books sold, and where they can see all the videos that you have of Larry and Robbie the Robot and all of your great travels.
Okay, well, if you go to my website, tuisnider.com, you're going to see it says, at the top, it says Tui Snider is an author, speaker, photographer, YouTuber. When it says YouTuber, you can just click on that. It'll take you to my YouTube channel. And then when you go there, I'm doing this on my computer so I can show you. Go to playlists, I think would be the thing to do. Hey, subscribe to my channel while you're there, because I do put out a bunch of cool stuff on a fairly, every other week pretty much.
Yeah, and that'll be updated. They'll automatically let you know when you post something.
And I put the fun stuff that Larry does, I put it in a playlist called Fun Behind the Scenes. And you just click on that and you will see all sorts of things. You'll see his dragon pizza oven. You'll see his Robbie the robot. You'll see the absinthe that he made. That's a good spot. Oh, the bas relief that he made, this gorgeous sculpture on our wall. And I just keep adding to it. And he just keeps doing cool stuff. So there's always something for me to do. So, and then if you want to enter my giveaway, go to my website and then hit on articles, and it'll be the first article you see will tell you how to do it. And I thank you all.
Perfect. Thank you so much for another great segment. Everybody always looks forward to those. I love them. And it's very interesting. They're always something new and interesting. So thank you so much for your time. And everybody who's listening, I really appreciate your time. And we will be back on next Wednesday. No, next Wednesday is a holiday. So we'll be back the following Wednesday with you. And we will have Bill Foss, who is going to talk to us about Akashic Records and much more. So thank you for joining us. This is Teal Gray for Paramysteries, and we will see you soon. Good night, everybody.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.